43 years of imprisonment in the heart of Missouri, the horrifying murder still did not find the real killer? It is said that ignorance allied with power is the most ferocious enemy justice can face. But what if justice remains silent and unchallenged? Does time heal these wounds, eventually revealing the truth when the time is right? This is the story of Sandra Hemme, a Missouri woman who has spent 43 years in prison for a grisly 1980 murder, and where her lawyers argue that the murder was actually committed by a police officer with ties to the crime scene of the case. Now, let's uncover the story behind this mystery, the connections between the murders and the wrongful imprisonment of the suspect. In 1980s, Patricia Jeschke, a library worker, was brutally murdered. Jeschke was last seen alive around 5 p.m. on November 12, 1980. Her body was found naked and sexually molested. She was killed via strangulation and suffered multiple head wounds. Whereafter Sandra Hemme, a psychiatric patient, was questioned while on antipsychotic drugs, leading to inconsistent statements. Later, in the investigation, police found Sandra Hemme as a suspect, where Hemme initially told detectives she had been hitchhiking with two people named Joe and Pat. The next day, she said the man was Joe Wobski, who, after talking about human and animal sacrifices, came out of a house with blood on his hands and threatened her if she told anyone. Hemme claimed Wobski killed Patricia Jeschke and led police to Jeschke's house, though her lawyers later said police drove her there. Despite Wobski's criminal history, his alibi was confirmed, and the murder charge against him was dropped. Hemme was charged with murder on December 10th and denied bail, while her assault charge was later dropped. Now, despite pleading guilty to avoid the death penalty, her plea was overturned, and she was convicted again in 1985 without the jury knowing about the coercive nature of her interrogations. And currently, Hemme's lawyers argued that Michael Holman, a former police officer, is the real killer. Evidence linking Holman to the crime was suppressed, including his fraudulent use of Jeschke's credit card and possession of her jewelry. The judge highlighted the unreliable nature of Hemme's statements and the substantial evidence pointing to Holman. Hemme's case is not isolated. Other mentally ill individuals in St. Joseph, like Melvin Lee Reynolds, were also wrongfully convicted based on coerced confessions. The decision to free Hemme brings hope for justice after decades of wrongful imprisonment. Here last week, a judge overturned her Sandra Hemme's conviction, citing that Hemme was in a malleable mental state during her heavily medicated interrogation at a psychiatric hospital, and that prosecutors withheld evidence about the discredited officer who died in 2015. Hemme, now 64, is the longest-serving woman in the US, wrongfully convicted, according to the Innocence Project. Her family eagerly awaits her potential release. Judge Ryan Horseman ruled that evidence of her actual innocence was compelling, ordering her release within 30 days unless prosecutors decide to retry her.